This week there have been conflicting reports about the future of the property market. Some predict another boom, while others say it's cooling off. So should we still be buying, and if so, where? Stephen Hart is head of Home Finders, a residential property consultancy, and author of The Streetwise Homebuyer. He joins me now from Topor. Stephen, I'm lost. One day I'm told the market's powering on, the next it's slowing down. What's really going on?
Good question, and I honestly believe that, unfortunately, nobody really knows the answer to that. I think the one thing that is sure is that any sort of bubble bursting or slow puncture, it's in the post, it's on the way, whether it's this month, next month, or 3 months down the track. A lot of people have predicted it wrongly in the past, but there's no doubt about the fact that property prices, especially in Auckland, but all around the country, are rising faster than incomes. And that means that the continual pressure in terms of demand must wane at some point. Up until now, buyers have been able to buy anything and get away with it because even mediocre properties in poor areas bought too expensively. Eventually, you'll make money on them. That's going to change.
So those golden days are over. Where would I be best to put my buck then?
Where best to put your buck? In terms of property, I still think it's a very, very good idea, but you've got to make sure that you're buying quality property in quality areas. And that could be anything from, in terms of course, most of us aren't really thinking about an investment. It's got to be for lifestyle reasons. And I think that one of the problems that most people face is they have a natural inertia to the areas that they know best, rather than knowing all of the areas that are available. So it's more knowledge, it's more homework, it's more asking questions, it's getting in the car and going and finding out places. It's doing homework.
In one of your books, you mentioned the ideal, the perfect property is a period property in a cul-de-sac near a main arterial. I think there was one other criteria, good school zone, that's right. And then you add the bonus is the flat section, the north-facing and the sea views. I thought sea views was what it was all about, particularly in Auckland.
It is. But there's a very, very small amount of people that can afford to buy sea views. But I think the point that, that I'm getting to with sea views is that it is all about supply and demand. If you are buying a finite number of properties, whether it's coastal properties or cliff tops, sea view, good school zones, then there's a relatively fixed number of that property stock, yet more and more people will always want to buy for those unique characteristics. So there's always going to be demand. The problem is when you're talking about commodity properties, and they're these torp boxes in Dannemora or Botany Downs, or an ordinary apartment in Auckland City or Wellington City or anywhere else, they become almost like tradable commodities when the market dips. So that's what to avoid. Buy something special, in other words.
What about a two-bedroom place near Gore, which went for $39,000 this week, our cheapest property? Interestingly enough, it went to an overseas buyer, which raised the heckles of many.
Yeah, probably a country music lover, presumably.
If I'm not in Auckland, should I be trying still to get a slice of the Auckland market, or should I be looking closer to home?
I think, again, it depends what you want to do. Auckland was one of the first places that experienced significant property rises, and it's probably one of the first that will experience any significant downturn. So I think you've got to question your own risk profile. I mean, there's a real possibility that Auckland may see some immediate downturn unless you're buying well. If you're buying well with good advice, good knowledge, and access to the right sort of references, and most importantly, are doing the homework and prepared to make offers on all sorts of properties until you get a bargain, then I think Auckland is the best place to be. But it's the worst place to be if you're buying without the correct information. Great,
Stephen. Thanks very much. Chris, does the property market worry you?
Yeah, it does absolutely, and I was reading a number of blogs this week, you know, and there's a real sense of impending doom amongst a lot of people, and people questioning the investment value going forward of property. But I think the big concern is, I'd be interested to hear your views on this. Have we just given up on the first-time buyer, the couple who are bringing in $50,000 a year between them, and are just in a blind panic about where they go?
I think in terms of the first-time buyer, it's a critical market. they're a critical component in the whole equation. The reality is, first-time buyers, they may have been brought up in the eastern suburbs or the affluent eastern suburbs of Auckland or Wellington or Hamilton. They're going to move out. They're going to move to Papakura. They're going to move out to Te Wamutu or other areas. And this will become inevitable. And this is why cities spread.
But the government talks about shared equity schemes and things like that, but that's surely just going to keep the market inflated, isn't it?
I think that it's an important thing morally for the government to be seen to be supporting young people. But you're right, it does provide an artificial input into the marketplace, which complicates the whole issue.
Just looking at timing of buying into the market, isn't it a dangerous time right now to buy in when interest rates are approaching 10% for most people, where home loan affordability, particularly for first-home buyers, is frankly impossible? If you look at the percentage of after-tax pay you need to service the mortgage on an average home now, it's close to 80% in places like Auckland. Why would anyone buy into the market right now when most people are saying it's going to be flat or possibly even worse?
Of course, most people have been saying that for the last 2 years, that we should be expecting the drop. The last 2 years have seen a significant increase, and of course, people who bought during that period have realised significant appreciation and gain. And that may, then of course it can be revalued, and they've made a substantial gain on the whole thing. So the reality is, it's always a good time to buy quality property, but it's definitely not a good time to buy anything. And I think this is the key thing. You know, there are 50,000 transactions per year in the Auckland area, for example. There are not 50,000 smart buys. The thing that's more important than ever now is to make sure that you're spotting a bargain, because it's that will determine whether you make capital gain rather than just natural appreciation. So yes, I still think it's a great time to get into buying property in Auckland, but never has there been a time that you need to be better prepared and smarter and on the ball.
Stephen Hart, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
After the break, crossing the harbour is an undersea tunnel the answer to Auckland's traffic problems.